Hi, this is Ms. Park. This video is an introduction to trigonometry. So this concept is first introduced in grade 10, and then it's done again in grade 11, and we just build on it in grade 11. So just to go back to the very basics of trigonometry, the meaning of trigonometry is the word trig means triangle, and then nometry means measurement. So like meter, like the word meter. So trigonometry means measurement of triangles, right? Measurement of triangles. And sometimes things are not easy to measure, so we might calculate things about triangles without necessarily having to measure everything. So the premise of this is that when you have a right angle triangle, and what we're going to be doing in this video is only when there's right angle triangles. So you can see over here, right triangles. We can label the sides in a certain way. And then once we label the sides in a certain way, then we can come up with a tool that helps us to find missing sides. So I'll show you what I mean. And this triangle on the left here, this marking over here is called theta. Pronounced theta. It's a Greek letter, and it basically means angle. We use it for missing angles or any kind of angle. Okay, but usually we use theta when we're talking about an angle. Okay, so if theta is over here, then we have words to name the sides that are in the triangle with respect to theta. So this long side over here is called the hypotenuse. And we know this because for any right angle triangle, so even from Pythagorean theorem, we know this word hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is across from 90 degrees. Okay, so you can always see that that hypotenuse is always across from 90 degrees, and that is the longest side. It's always the longest side of the triangle. So what are the other sides? So across from angle theta, so let me just get rid of this arrow in the middle so we don't confuse things. Across from angle theta, we call that side the opposite. We call it the opposite because opposite means it's across the triangle from our angle. Okay, so it's the opposite, which is across from theta. All right, and the third side is called the adjacent. It's called adjacent, and adjacent in English means beside. So beside theta. So how do you know how to name them? Well, if you know where your angle theta is, it's called the reference angle. It's the one that we care about. If that's in the triangle, then the side that's opposite it, across from it, on the other side of the triangle is called opposite, and the side that's beside it is called adjacent, and the hypotenuse is always the same. It's always the one across from 90 degrees. So even if somebody draws you the triangle upside down, as long as you know that where the theta is, then you can label the three sides. Let's do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to switch up color. Okay, so here's my theta again. This is the opposite. This is adjacent. And this is hypotenuse. Okay, so now, what is trigonometry? Trigonometry that we're going to use, it uses three functions on your calculator. So I'm just going to write here functions on the calculator. And they are called trig ratios. And they are defined by ratios of these sides. So a ratio you get when you divide two things. So sine is what you get when you take your opposite and divide it by your hypotenuse. So let's say your opposite side was 2 meters and your hypotenuse is 10 meters, then your sine is 2 over 10, 2 divided by 10. Cosine is the adjacent divided by hypotenuse, and tangent is the opposite divided by the adjacent. Okay, now these three things you're going to need to remember, okay? And in order to remember them, there is a little memory aid that we use, and it looks like this. SOH CAH TOA. And SOH CAH TOA is nice and famous. Lots of students like it because SOH CAH TOA tells us what each of these sine, cosine, and tan mean. So for the first one, it tells us that sine equals opposite divided by hypotenuse. Cosine equals adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Tan equals opposite divided by adjacent. So if you can remember SOH CAH TOA and write it down on your paper every time, then you'll remember the ratios. Okay, so what are we going to do with this information? And remember I said they're functions on a calculator. So where does the calculator come in? So we're going to do an example that's going to use your calculator. Now when we use a calculator for trigonometry, we have to make sure that the calculator is what's called in degree mode. Degree mode. So depending on your calculator, there's different ways to change the modes. So calculators have 3 modes: degree, radian, and grad. And we want it to be in degree mode. So you're going to have to find on your calculator how to change that mode and make sure you're in degrees. Once you're in degrees, on the display of the calculator, you'll either have a small d showing at the top, or you'll have a DEG to say you're in degrees. If we're not in degrees, then actually we're going to get answers that are incorrect from our calculator. So we need to be in degree mode. So what do we do with this one over here? This one says find the missing side length. Didn't actually say which is the missing side length. So let's just choose this one. Okay, so give it a letter. So let's call it little a. Usually when we name sides, little a is across from big A, and little b will be across from big B, and so on. So look what I have. I have in this question, so my angle is 52 degrees. So here's my reference angle now. Now from the 52 degrees, the opposite is the 12, because remember what opposite was. It's on the other side of the triangle. The adjacent is this A. Okay, remember that adjacent means beside. So this side A is sitting beside the 52 degrees. It's touching. And the other one is hypotenuse, and you can always recognize hypotenuse because it's across from the 90 degrees. Even if the triangle looks like this, kind of upside down, the hypotenuse is across from the 90 degrees. Now that we have this, we look and see what is involved in this question. So the 52 degrees is involved, the adjacent is involved, and the opposite is involved. Hypotenuse is not involved because they didn't give it to us, and they also didn't ask for it. So we don't care about it. Okay, so what do we care about? We have 52 degrees, we have the adjacent, and we have the opposite, and that's all we have. Now, if you look at SOH CAH TOA, I want the one of these that has only adjacent and opposite in it. So it's not going to be sine, because sine is opposite and hypotenuse. It's not going to be cosine, it's tan. Opposite over adjacent. So watch what I'm going to do. Scroll up a bit. Okay, so now I'm going to write, because it's tan, I'm going to write this. Tan of 52 degrees equals, so remember what SOH CAH TOA says, it's the opposite over adjacent. And so tan of 52 degrees equals, opposite is 12 and adjacent is A. Okay. Now, I have this number, tan 52, which I can get from my calculator, and it equals a fraction. So what I'm going to do, before even picking up the calculator, I'm going to take this whole number, or whatever, this whole term, and put it over 1. And to solve this equation, we cross multiply. So you've seen cross multiply before when we solve proportion questions. Lots of word problems have this. We cross multiply. So A tan times 52, A times tan 52 equals 1 times 12. And now to isolate A, we divide by tan 52. Tan 52 is just a number in your calculator. So if we have A times that number, then to get rid of that number, we divide by that number, and they'll cancel out. And now I have A equals, so into my calculator, I will type, I see that I put 25, it's 52. Okay, now I will type 12 divided by tan 52. Into my calculator, and I get approximately 9.4. And if I look at my triangle, I can see that since the one of the sides is 12, the other one being approximately 9.4, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Okay, and so there I've found the missing side length. Okay, so there's an example. Let's see if there's another on the next page. Yeah, let's do one more. Okay, so we'll do one more example. It says find the missing side length, but it doesn't say which one. So let's say it's the little b. Okay, and then this is little a, and I label them like this because little a is across from big A and little b is across from big B. So now let's see what I have. From 30 degrees, this is the reference angle, I have the opposite. I don't have the adjacent. They didn't give it to me, they didn't ask me for it, but I do have the hypotenuse. So I've got 30 degrees. The opposite is the one I'm finding, which one? Oh yeah, little b, that's the one I want. And the hypotenuse is 24. So if I have opposite and I have hypotenuse from SOH CAH TOA, which one is it going to be? So which one of them has opposite and hypotenuse? This one. So we're going to say sine, not sin. It's sine 30 degrees equals opposite over hypotenuse. Sine 30 degrees equals little b over 24. Okay, now this is over 1, so cross multiply. 24 sine 30 degrees equals 1 times b, which is just b. And so b equals, and just put this into the calculator all in one step, 24 times sine 30, 12. Therefore, b equals 12. Okay, and I can do the same kind of thing for little a. Okay, and that's the end of the examples. So please practice. And in the next video, I'll show you how to find missing angles. Thanks for watching.